good day, good morning, good evening, wherever you are in the world. Welcome to another Microsoft Excel and data analysis learning community section. Our today's topic is called the lookups. I have our special guest by the name of Sanjay Chandra. So this webinar was brought to you by UrBizEdge. So I'll just give a brief description about UrBizEdge. So UrBizEdge is a registered Microsoft Excel consulting, financial modeling, business intelligence, data analysis, and enterprise solution firm in Nigeria. We specialize in helping companies and high-value professionals be on top of their business data. So we, as all of you know, we're also a training company. So this is our calendar for our upcoming trainings. So on the 20th to 19th, on the 19th to 20th of March, we have our advanced financial modeler, which is the master class, and also a mock exam. On the 25th to 26th of March, we have our in-depth Excel training, executive dashboard, and business data analysis. Also, on the 26th of March, we'll also be having advanced financial modeler plus the mock exam. So I'll give a brief description about our special guest by the name of Sanjay Chandra. Sanjay is a business intelligence analyst. He's also an electronics engineer, and he has an MBA by qualification. He focuses on Microsoft Office and Microsoft Power Platform. He has over 4.5 years working experience in corporate finance, business intelligence, analysis, and other general management. So with no further ado, I'll hand over the session to Sanjay.
Yeah.
I'll stop sharing my screen.
Yes, I'm just sharing my screen.
Okay.
Okay. I hope my screen is visible. Can you see my screen? Hello?
Yes, awesome. I can see your screen.
Oh, okay, fine. Okay, in this session, I'll be mostly talking about the lookup functions. And whenever I talk about lookup functions, generally people say that I know lookup functions. I mean, I know how to use VLOOKUP, how to use XLOOKUP, but there are actually a little bit of complications in real life scenarios. VLOOKUP may sound very easy and even XLOOKUP may sound very easy, but there are certain cases where these functions do not work. So in this session, I'll be walking you through different scenarios where lookup can get a little complicated and how to handle different problems. So as you can see here at the bottom, I have different sheets. So in each sheet, I'll be addressing one kind of problem which you face while you are doing lookups. So let's get started with VLOOKUP. So VLOOKUP is the most popular one because not everyone has the latest version of Office. So I'll walk through both VLOOKUP as well as XLOOKUP because they work in a similar way. And now let me talk about this one, VLOOKUP. So here I'm selecting this. Most of you know how to use VLOOKUP. I'll not get deep into this. And then I'll freeze my cells. And then I'll go with the column index 3 because I want the sales. And then I'll go with exact match. Now when I do this, suddenly I get two NA errors, right? The formula is the same, everything, the array is selected correctly, and here also you can see array is selected perfectly fine. The entire array is there, and both of these names are there. So here Darren Powers is there, and here Darren Powers is there, and this Brain is there, here also Brain is there. Now the point is, whenever you use a lookup function, it's not so straightforward in real life. In real life, the data is never in a clean format, right? So the first thing you need to do is you need to check whether the data is properly there or not. Whenever you get any error in a lookup function, you have to check for spaces. For example, if you see here, there is actually a space at the end. Similarly, for Darren Powers, there is one space at the beginning. So because of these spaces, the lookup functions are not working. And to the naked eye, you can never know whether a space exists or not because these spaces are there either at the beginning or towards at the end. So in the case of Brian, the space is there at the end. In case of Darren, the space is there at the beginning. For example, if the space is there in the middle, it's easy to see, it's easy to spot. But when the space is there in the beginning or at the ending, it's very difficult to spot. And this particular problem occurs because whenever someone tries to enter the data in Excel, sometimes they do copy pasting. They copy the data from one source and then paste it. So when they paste the data, obviously you will have these trailing or preceding spaces. Now how to overcome this problem? So if spaces are there, there is one function which Excel has. See, there are actually two functions. One is trim, another one is clean. Now when you talk about trim, you can see it says removes all spaces from the text string except for the single spaces between words. That means what? So let's say you have 10 spaces before or 10 spaces after. No matter how many spaces are there before and after, it will remove. Even if you have multiple spaces in the middle of the word also, it will remove. So I'll just walk you through a couple of cases of that. Next, another function is clean. Now clean actually removes all the non-printable characters. Generally what happens is whenever reports get generated from SAP or any kind of ERP system, sometimes the special characters get into the system while you copy paste the data. So clean can also be used. In this particular case, we can solve the problem with trim. But generally what I recommend is use trim and clean, the combination of both, so that you can solve this problem. Now what I have to do is, if this is the lookup function, first I can first I'll use the trim function, right? And then I'll copy. Now my values are coming, right? So if I don't use the trim function, it will not come. Now let's see one more thing. Here I'll add so many spaces like this. Even if I add 10 spaces, still the trim function will work, because the way trim function works is, here you see how it describes trim functions. See here, removes all spaces except for single spaces. That means even if a word has so many spaces in the middle, still it will remove all those spaces in the middle. So the trim function has three functions: before spaces, after spaces, middle spaces. So when you have middle spaces also, it will reduces it to one space. Here it removes all spaces. These are after spaces. Here also it removes all spaces. So this is what trim function is all about. And trim function can be used in different contexts. You can use it individually, but when you use it along with lookup function, it will help you to come up with the right result. So this is about trim. So many of these things even I was also not aware. So last year I was actually exploring my lookup knowledge, and I was trying to understand like how lookup function works in very complicated manner, and then I learned all of this. So one of my mentor actually taught me all these things. Otherwise, even I am not aware. 2 years back, if someone asked me, I also could not have answered any of this. Now the second type of error which you will walk through is the data type error. Here, if you see, if I use a VLOOKUP function, I'll put this, then I'll select this, I'll freeze the cells, and then I'll say exact match. Now you see, here the formula is not working, but here the formula is working. Now if you see here, all three of them are customer IDs. So 129 is Darren Powers, and this customer ID actually exists, but still it is throwing up an error. Why? Because in Excel, you do not know what is number and what is text. Both numbers and text look in a very similar fashion. So there is one function to check whether you're dealing with what type of data it is. Either you can go here in the format tab, but again it won't work well. So there is one thing called is number or is text. If I say is number, and then if I check, this is false and this is true. So both of these are numbers, but this is not a number. So when I use this function, the point is this is actually not a number. Here you can see an apostrophe, right? So whenever you try to write numbers with that apostrophe, it converts into text. So what happens is this is actually considered as a string. Now how do you deal with this? Like, because there is no way you can know whether this is a string or this is actually a multiple or whatever this is. So what you have to do is just multiply this by 1. So whenever you have any kind of lookup, and whenever you're searching for any value, if you multiply that by 1, it will automatically convert any kind of string into numbers. I mean, provided that is actually having some numerical values. For example, if I say ABC and if I multiply by 1, it may not work. This only works with numbers. So you have to multiply by 1. So this is one solution. Another solution is you have to go and format it in Power Query or some other tool, and then you can start using. But this is actually a simpler way, right? You can actually multiply with 1 and you can solve this problem. So this is about data type, right? Text versus numbers. And the next thing is sometimes you may have two different tables and you want to actually use a lookup function. So in this case, what you can do is you can use if or switch statement, right? So both of them can be used. For example, here I want to say VLOOKUP, and then I'll select all of this, and then I will say I want sales, right? I want sales, and then I will select this, then I'll select the array, then my index is 3, and then I want exact match. And if I just copy this, it is bringing whichever is the first value, right? Because that's how lookup works, like whatever I selected, the range. Now what if I want to get lookup from both of these ranges? So what I can do is here I can type, let's say h1, something like that, and here I can give an if condition. If L is h1 the range, otherwise change my range to this, right? So if I use this function, now what happens is if I select h2, one second. Yeah, so here if I change to h1 or if I change to h2, it will actually change my output. Now the point of this function is here you have to add a switch or if statement. If you don't add it properly, then you will not get the desired output, right? So to make it more easy, what I can do is I can go like this. I can put each argument in one line. So this will make your formula more readable, right? So what it is saying here is if I3 is equal to H1, then go with this particular range H1. If it is not H1, then go with this particular range which is at the bottom. So that is how you actually come up with this two table concept. And the next thing which I want to talk about is the multiple concept. So sometimes what happens
Okay,
is,
Sanjay, sorry for cutting you short.
yeah.
So in the chat box they said you should go a little bit slow, like you're kind of fast.
Fine. Okay. I'll go
Thank
slow.
you very much. Thank you very
Okay.
much.
Yeah, fine. Yeah. Okay. In this particular case, if you see this particular case here, I'm going with two tables, right? I'll just repeat it. I'm going with two tables. What I have done is I have simply used the lookup function, which is like more readable. So instead of putting it in one line, I can put it in 4 lines so that it can make it easy for users to understand. That is the only thing. Here I did not freeze it. Just let me freeze this one. Yeah, now it will work properly. See this. If I change this, I'm able to do a lookup from two different tables, right? So that is how the lookup function works with two tables. It is very simple. I'm using the same VLOOKUP function, but I'm actually using two different ranges. That's it. I'm using an if condition to select my range because my table structure is the same. That's why the rest of the arguments remain the same. Okay. Now let me talk about the multiple condition. If you look at this, for example, here we have Mick Brown and here we have Mick Brown in a single column. So here we are dealing with a case of single column versus multiple columns. So can you do a lookup with this situation? Now many people will think about it. Even if you ask a very advanced Excel user, can you do a lookup like this? Even very intermediate Excel users, even those with vast experience, even think about it. They will not immediately give you an answer because these kinds of cases sound very peculiar, right? Because in real life, if you think about it, not every time you will get data in the same structure. Sometimes you may have name splitted into first name and last name, and the source data may have a full name, right? This is a very common situation, especially when you're dealing with the data which is entered manually. Now, can you do any kind of lookup with this? And the answer is yes. Lookup functions even work with multiple columns, right? It is the same lookup function we use, but these are different cases. In one case, I use trim and clean. In one case, I have used multiplication by 1. In this case, I am actually changing my range with an if statement. So in this condition, what I have to do is I have to match both of them. Then only I can get the actual answer. So what I will do is I'll give you like 1 minute to think about it and then I will just proceed ahead regarding this. Like you don't need to answer, but you can just think about it. Can we actually do a lookup of Mick Brown in this case from this table? Yes or no? You just think about it. And then I'll proceed forward. Okay. in this particular case, you need to deal with strings. For example, if I say VLOOKUP and if I say MIC and if I go like this, a normal lookup function. And if I say it will say NA, obviously, because we are only searching for MIC. Now I need MIC brown. So what I have to do? I have to put ampersand and then I have to select name. Even if I do this, still I'll get an error. Why? Because here there is a space, MIC space brown. Then what I have to do? I have to append a space here and then do this, right? This is a common text function in Excel. If you want two different cells, right? If I say MIC brown and here, if I simply say like this, I'll get MIC brown without a space. If I want a space, then again I have to put a empty space and then I have to use this ampersand so that I'll get full MIC brown. So this is exactly what I have done here. I have used MIC from this cell, brown from this cell, and in the middle I have appended some space. And that is why this function is actually working. And if you see, it is working perfectly fine. And like I told before, because this could not be clean, again you can go with clean of this, right? Something like that you can go, something like that you can do to make it more realistic. Of course, the function size will become more, but still it is manageable. It's easy to understand. So if you go in a step-by-step manner, you can actually handle it. There is no issue. If you have any questions, you can put it in the chat box till now. Then I'll go with the next concept. Next concept will be a little tricky. One second. Okay. Okay, fine. I'll go with the next concept, which is duplicate, right? Now, when it comes to this particular concept, generally when you talk about lookup functions, what is the limitation? The limitation of lookup function is you will only get the first result. This is the biggest issue with the lookup function, no matter which lookup function you use. Even if you use XLOOKUP, still the limitation exists. Now, how to overcome this limitation? There are multiple ways. I'm going to show one of the ways. And this particular way works whether you are using VLOOKUP, XLOOKUP, whatever you are using. OK, there is no issue with that. Now let's talk about how to handle this particular problem. Here I have a name, right? Darren Powers. Now, if you see here, I want his sales history. So Darren Powers is here, he is here, he is here, right? And he is also here. So Darren Power is coming 4 times. Now I want to get all the instances of Darren Power. First time, second time, third time, and fourth time. Now, how do I handle this situation? It is a little bit tricky, but it works. There is no issue. If you understand the logic, this can be very easily understood and you can start using it. And the advantage of this is, generally, if you want aggregation means if I ask what is the total sales of Darren Powers, then what we generally do is we go with SUMIF, or if I ask how many transactions are there with Darren Power, you will go with COUNTIF or something like that. Now the issue with SUMIF and COUNTIF is it will only give you the aggregation. It will only give you the total, average, or whatever. It will never actually give you that. So this particular function will never give you SUMIF or COUNTIF the individual entries. It will only give you the aggregation. What is the total? For example, if I use SUMIF, it will add all these 4 numbers and then give me the total. I don't want that. What I want is I want the sales of Darren Power individually. Okay, what is the first instance, second instance, third instance, and fourth instance? This is what I actually want. Now, if this is what I want, what should be the logic? Just think about it. I'll give you a minute, and it's a very simple logic. It can be a little tricky. It can take a little bit of time to understand, but you can just think about the logic. When I ask about logic, you don't think in terms of Excel functions. Think from a normal logical perspective, general logic. How do you solve this problem? So my desired output is here I need to get 902, here I need to get 662, 667 and 634. This is my desired output from Darren Powers. So how to get this output is what I'm asking here. Okay.
You can check the chat box.
Fine. Okay, distinct values. Some people are saying filter functions, but still, okay. But still, see, even if you use filter function, how will you find out what is the nth value? Here, what I want is nth repetition, nth repeated value. That means first, second, third, fourth, fifth. Even if you use filter function, how will you solve that problem? I want second instance of Darren Power's sales history, third instance, fourth instance. But when you use filter function, you need to know the range, right? Without knowing the range, how will you use a filter function? Because we don't know. Darren Powers might exist in the 1000th row. It can exist in 2000th row. We don't know. Okay, I'll give the solution. So let me first expand this table. So first thing is you need to count, right? First logic is you need to count the instance. So for example, here Darren Power is coming for the first time. Here it is coming for the second time. Here it is coming for the third time, and here it is coming for the fourth time. So we need to count. So counting means what? Okay, what I'm desiring is Darren Powers 1, Darren Powers 2. If I make something like this, then I can search because it becomes unique. Right now, the biggest problem with lookup functions is these are not unique. That's why we are unable to search first, second, third, fourth, fifth like that. Once we make them unique, then it is easy to search. Now how to make them unique is very simple. Use COUNTIF function and then have the range. Okay, now I'll explain the logic behind it after using it. Now if I go and apply this function, now see, what I'm doing is I am using a COUNTIF logic. Now how does COUNTIF function works is, first it will ask for a range and then it will ask for the criteria. Now criteria is what? These all names will be the criteria in each cell. Range is what? This entire array is my range. Now how do I count it is D7 cell is frozen. That means this cell will remain constant when I copy paste the formula. But these two cells will be dynamic. They keep changing. So second time these two cells are included. Third time, so the array will keep on expanding like this, right? Because when I talk about range, the first cell is static, the second cell is dynamic, and my search criteria is also dynamic. So as the formula keeps on copying, what happens is it keeps on counting. So for example, Darren Power is coming second time. Here it is coming third time. It is coming fourth time. Similarly, Brian is coming second time. So that is the beauty of this very simple formula. It sounds little complicated, but it's very simple logic. All you're doing is you're just playing around with the references, relative references. That's it. So that's how you'll get the instance. Now let's go back with the previous logic. What I will do, I will say Darren Powers and space, right? Very simple. Now what I'm having, I converted repeated values into unique values. So here what's happening? Darren Power 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, etc. Now let me apply the same logic. I'll say lookup Darren Powers. So I'll freeze it and space this. Then table array is this. Freeze it, column index 3, and this is exact match. Now see, this will obviously show NA because Darren Power is only coming 4 times. Now I got my sales history of Darren Powers. Now let's talk about another person whose value is repeating. Let's take this one, Brian. So I'll copy paste this guy. So here I'll paste him. See this, he is repeating only 3 times, right? The maximum number of times he got repeated was only 3 times. So last 2 cells are obviously showing error. So I'm able to get my desired result. If I copy Darren Powers, I'm getting 4 values because he is getting repeated 4 times. So that's how you can take advantage of the COUNTIF function with lookup function to get the history. So you can do this across, like even if a name repeats 100 times, you can still do it. Okay, now some of you might say, why not? I mean, why to do all of this? You can use a sort mechanism. You can just sort all the names and do it. But the point is, in real life, there can be certain situations where you want to know the nth value, nth repeated value, because business cases are kind of complicated. It's not as simple as just sorting and knowing which is the second or third value. What if you have 1 lakh rows? Like, how will you handle it? So those are complicated situations where this will come very handy. If you have any questions, you can put it in the chat box.
Okay, there are a lot of questions in the chat box right now. Okay.
Yeah.
So for
right. I will tell. See, the reason why it is searching for others, because we are not actually searching only for Darren Powers. See, first we are asking the criteria is Darren Powers. In the second cell, the criteria is Filina. In third cell, it is Mick Brown. So it keeps on changing, right? See, it keeps on changing. The criteria will keep on changing. It actually searches for every single name. That is the beauty of this formula. It doesn't just search for Darren Powers. It searches for every name. So it searches for Darren Powers. It searches for David. It will search for Filina. And that is the reason why I showed this, because this is a scalable solution. This is not something which is only limited to one entry. For every entry, you can actually come up with the solution. Right. I'll explain it again. Okay, fine. See, very simple. Here, when you talk about lookups, you'll only get the first result. Why? Because lookup functions have one hidden, like, implicit condition. The implicit condition is whenever you're searching for something, it should be from a unique column. Then only you'll get the right result. If some values are repeated like this, you'll never get the second, third, fourth, and fifth result. You'll always get the first result. Now, to overcome this problem, if I want to know the history of a person, second time, third time, fourth time repetition, then what I should do is I should convert a non-unique column to unique column. That is the simple logic. If I am able to convert my non-unique column to a unique column, my problem is solved. Then lookup functions will work. I don't require sum if. So sum if and count if, the issue is they're aggregation functions. They'll only give you the total sales. They'll not give you the second, third, fourth instances of sales. So you cannot use them. So the only way is you have to come up with a lookup function solution where you can search for each and every instance. The only way you can do that is by converting a non-unique column to unique column. So to convert that unique column, what you're doing is you're trying to track each value, how many times it is getting repeated. To track that, what you are using is you are using this simple formula, COUNTIF. So with COUNTIF, what happens is it keeps a track of everything. So for example, if I drag this formula, what's happening? See this, Darren Powers is coming second time. It kept a track of Darren Powers. Okay, Darren Powers is coming 2 times, then 3 times, then 4 times. So it is maintaining a count of each record which you are counting like this. So what happens? Suddenly your column is unique. Once your column is unique, you can apply the same logic. Here, if you see in the multiple tables, what we have done? We have done VLOOKUP, this name and space and this last name. The same logic we are using here. Here also what we are saying. Here I am searching for Brian space 1. Brian space 2, Brian space 3, Darren Power space 2, like this. So here I'm having the same kind of logic. So here whatever logic I used for first name and last name, the similar kind of logic I'm using to bring my sales history, right? I hope this must have cleared your query. Okay.
Awesome. You can continue.
Okay, fine. This is how you can get the duplicated values with lookup functions. And now let me talk about another thing, which is approximate match. Now this is a very, very interesting case, and for most of you, it will be a new learning experience, I can say. So until here, you have seen different cases, right? You can use lookup function with unclean data. Then you can convert the numbers by multiplying them with 1. Then you can do lookup function with 2 tables. Then you can do lookup functions with single column versus multiple columns. Then you're dealing with duplicate values. Now, whatever you're going to see will be an eye opener. That is something which I can tell you. So what is approximate match and how does it work? And what is VLOOKUP? what is VLOOKUP and what is XLOOKUP. So how well you can actually take advantage of both of these functions. So this is what I'm going to talk about in this particular sheet. So what will happen is, many people ask me, okay Sanjay, XLOOKUP is great, but VLOOKUP is doing the same job. So why should I use XLOOKUP? This is one of the questions which many people ask, like especially people who have a lot of experience with Excel. Even if I tell, okay, XLOOKUP is very advanced, people will say, when VLOOKUP is getting my job done, why should I use XLOOKUP? Right? A very common question this is. This example will convince you to stop using VLOOKUP and start using XLOOKUP. And I'll tell you exactly why. Now let's talk about some dates, and these are interest rates. So what happens is, here, this is like a business case, you can say. Generally what happens whenever you go for any bank, or if you go for, if you talk about central banks, for example, they keep changing the interest rates. Similarly, you talk about currency exchange rates, bank interest rates, or if you talk about pricing mechanism of certain companies, they'll say, right, okay, from this date, this is the interest rate. From this date, this is the interest rate. That means what? If I go to a bank on 11th February 21, what will happen? This is out of range. Right now I have a table only from 12th February. So that is out of range. Now let me talk about an example within that range. If I go to a bank on 12th March, so what will happen? This 12th March is lying somewhere between these two values, right? So between 12th February and 14th May. Now, when I talk about 12th March, what should be the interest rate? The interest rate should be 4%. Why? Because the effective date of 4% interest rate, it starts from 12th February. That means if I go to a bank after 12th February and before 14th May, between these two dates, this will be my interest rate. Similarly, if I go to a bank, let's say on 1st January 2022, then what should be my interest rate? My interest rate should be 10%. Why? Because this 1st January is lying somewhere between these two dates, between 19th September and 22nd January. So my effective interest rate is 10%. Until it is 22nd January, my interest rate will remain 10% between these two periods, right? So that is the case which I am talking about. Now here I have some random dates, right? Now I want to get the interest rates which are applicable if I go to a bank on these particular dates. Now how do I solve this? For example, if I try to use a VLOOKUP, if I do a VLOOKUP like how I do generally, it will throw an error because 13th February doesn't exist anywhere here, right? So that is where I need to go with something called approximate match, right? So what approximate match, I'll tell you exactly. If you see here, there are two arguments in the last part of lookup, VLOOKUP, right? So the first argument is lookup value, second is table array, third one is column index, and fourth one is the range of the lookup. Here if I say approximate match, here I'm suddenly getting the answer. And if I just copy paste this formula, I'm getting the exact interest rates, the exact, you can cross check. So 15th April means it lies somewhere between these two dates, and my interest rate between these two dates will always be 4%, right? Similarly, 7th January, the interest rate is 10%. It is working. Now you might say, okay, this is working great. So why should I use XLOOKUP now? Now I'll tell you the main problem. Since we are talking about real life, anything can happen to your Excel file, right? Anybody can use your Excel file within your company or whatever project you're working on. Now what I'll do is I'll put like this, and now I'll sort it. Now what will happen? Everything breaks. It doesn't actually show me the right value, right? As long as this is in the right order, as long as it is in the ascending order, the dates are in the ascending order, this works absolutely fine. Now that is the biggest disadvantage of VLOOKUP. Whenever you use approximate match, your values should be in ascending order. Now how does it work is very simple. For example, let's say if my value, if I have bins, let's assume in terms of distribution concept. Let's say I have 0 to 50, 50 to 100, 100 to 150. If I take a value of 26, What is the starting of the bin range? 0. The ending of the bin range is 50. So when I say approximate match, it will go to the next lowest value. The lowest value is 0 here in this case, because this is the bin range. Similarly, if I take a value of 7, let's say 81, the starting is 50 and the ending range is 100. So when I use a approximate match, what will happen is this 81 will go into the lower limit, which is 50. Whichever is the lower limit, the approximate match will take me to that lower limit, to that particular lower limit. So here also what's happening with the same logic, whenever I say my date is somewhere in between, it will go back to the previous state. So if I say the date is 11th of April 2021, if I say my date is 11th of April 2021, what will happen? This particular date will fall back to 12th February. If I say some other date, that will fall back to the previous date. So because of that logic, I am getting the right answers. The minute I sort this, what will happen? Everything breaks away. Things will no longer work. Now what you have to do is, I will tell you the only option, the only solution to this is XLOOKUP. In XLOOKUP, I have to edit here. Now let me do an XLOOKUP. If I go with XLOOKUP, this is the lookup array and this is the return array. If it is not found, I'll put an error message which is not found, and the match is approximate match. Right? Now see this, watch this, what will happen? Even if I sort my data, nothing happens to it. In which order that is, nothing changes. If I use lookup, everything will get messed around. Because lookup means your values, when you use approximate match in VLOOKUP, the value should always be in ascending order, then only it works. If your dates are in descending order, VLOOKUP approximate match will not work. So that's why you need to use XLOOKUP, and that is where XLOOKUP is very, very beautiful function. It will help. So if you see here in VLOOKUP, see this, in approximate match, it should only be sorted in the ascending order. It clearly says. In VLOOKUP, that is the limitation. In XLOOKUP, the beauty is it will search in both directions, either ascending or descending order, and order doesn't matter. That's why you need to use XLOOKUP, because it is more stable. Even if someone sorts your data, still XLOOKUP will work. Even if someone messes around your data with their order with approximate match, still XLOOKUP will work. And now let me give you one more instance. Let's talk about bulk pricing, right? In bulk pricing, what happens? You have different variation pricing. So for example, if one person purchases something, they will say it is 100. If let's say 50 people purchases it, then probably they'll say, okay, you can get it for 80. If 1000 people purchases it, they'll say each person it will cost only 50. So when you talk about bulk pricing, what will happen? Your price per unit will be very less. Now I'll show you the differences between both. Because VLOOKUP only works with approximate match, the value should be ascending order. It only works with the lower limit. That means I'll show you. Now you will completely understand what I'm saying. If I say 100, 101, 201, 251, 351. So this is the lower limit. Lower limit, right? The quantity. This is the lower limit, 0, 101 and all of this. Now if I do a VLOOKUP with this, now you will understand what I'm actually referring to. This works, right? But again, what is the problem? If I put my filter and if I sort it, everything breaks away. It starts showing n errors. And it only works with lower limit, right? The approximate match in VLOOKUP works two conditions. Works only with lower limit. Second condition is, first it works with only lower limit. Second, it should be in ascending order. Two issues. Now when you go with XLOOKUP, both of these conditions can be resolved. In XLOOKUP, you can put it in any order. Second, you can work with either lower limit or upper limit. Now let me use XLOOKUP here. If I say XLOOKUP, I will look at this array. Then my return array is this. Since I'm talking about lower limit, I'll go with smaller items. go to the next smaller item because I'm talking about lower limit. And if I copy this, it works absolutely fine. Now if I copy the same formula, if I put the second one, larger item. So here it is smaller item, this is larger item. It will no longer work. It will show errors. So here it is working, here it is not working. Why? Because when you use -1, you have to go with lower limit. Here, when you use +1, you have to go with the upper limit. So I'll just show you how the upper limit works. What is the upper limit of this? If I just cut this, sorry, only I'll put upper limit. What is the upper limit? This is 100, 200, 300, sorry, 250, 350, and 351, right? So this can be infinity. Let me put 1000 just for the sake of discussion, right? Now what I'll do is I will take this and I'll put it here and it will start working. See, it is working perfectly fine. So it works in both directions. Either you can go with lower limit and do your approximate match, or you can go with upper limit and still do the approximate match. And your order can be anything. See, I'll change the order. Right? So here it is again not working. See, again it is messing around. So let me just, sorry, here I need to put this. Sorry, it will work. Just give me a second. It will work. Let me put this. Yeah. Now even if I mess this around, still it works. See, nothing is changing here. But if I sort it, my VLOOKUP is unstable. So the minute I sort it, it no longer works. But my XLOOKUP is very, very stable. I can use my lower limit, I can use my upper limit. Still I'm able to get all the answers. So that's the reason why you need to use XLOOKUP. So this one example is enough for you to understand how amazing the lookup functions on Excel are implemented. Right? This is how you need to use XLOOKUP. This, right? I'll now see the chat box. Let me know. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Yes. Okay, so this is about XLOOKUP. So different conditions of XLOOKUP and VLOOKUP when it comes to approximate match. Now let me talk about the index function and match function. This most of you will know. Now what is the difference between both? Index function, what it will do is it will fetch you the value based on the position. That means if I say index, if I say this is my array, I'll freeze it. Sorry, I'll freeze it, or I will, this one I can take. Okay, fine, I'll take this. And then it is asking what is my row number. So this is the position. Position means row number basically. Right? So the first one is Darren Powers, I'm getting it. Second one is this. And 10th one is this. I'm getting it perfectly. So basically what index will do is from position you will get the value, right? Very simple. If you give the position number, it will give you the value which is in that position. Match is exactly the opposite. If you go with match function, it will give you you will be given a value and you need to find position, right? It is opposite. So this is match. Here from position, whatever position they are giving you 1, 2 and 10, from given position it will give you the value. In match function, from given value you will find the position. So if I say match and if I say lookup and this is my lookup array and if I freeze it and then here also match type will be there, I'll say exact match obviously and see. So here what's happening? I have given a value and it is now telling me the position. So index and match work in the opposite ways, right? If you take them individually. So index will take the position and give the value. Match will take the value and give you the position. So opposite functions. But when you combine them, they work very well. So index and match generally works when it comes to two-dimensional arrays. That means here if you see this, I have one header here the years, and here I have my names, and this is a matrix structure because I'm having two-dimensional data, right? So in this particular case, what you have to do, if I say I want to fetch this particular value, it has to fulfill two conditions. It has to take Chris in the year 2019. So one condition is Chris, second condition is this. If these two conditions are fulfilled, then this value will be coming. So whenever you are dealing with two-dimension data, you need to go with index and match. So how does index and match work? So you will say index and match. One second. So you will select the array, something like this. So the syntax you don't need to remember. See, this is what I always tell. Don't worry too much about the syntax. Once you understand the logic, then understanding the syntax is not such a big deal, right? So keep a note of that. Don't focus too much on, don't focus too much on syntax. The reason why I always tell this, because syntax you can always go online and you can search in the Microsoft documentation or in online courses, you can get that. But if you don't understand the logic, even if you have the formula, you will not know how to use it, right? So try to understand the logic here. So that's why I'm focusing less towards the functions and more towards the logic throughout this session. So you can go with index and match. Now let me go back and explain. So how do we use combination of index and match, and then I'll give the formula. So index and match is there. So here what is happening? You have to give positions. So for index, input is position, output is the value. Here the input is value, output is the position. Now how do you use them together? Ultimately, what should be the output? The output should be a value. That means what? Your output should be value means you need to start with index function, because some people ask, why can't I use match first and then index second? You cannot use that because our output is a value. So you need to start with index function. Then you select the array, right? And now what should you give? What should be the input? Your input should be the value so that you will get the actual position, and that position will be taken and given as output. So that's how it works. It can be confusing, but once you watch it, you'll understand. I'll say match. So it is asking, okay, what is my lookup value? So the lookup value is, let's say this, okay. And then, so here, see this, here it is saying this is row number, right? Row number means like this from top to bottom. Column number means from left to right. So I need to go with row number first. So here I will say match this with this lookup array. I'll freeze it. And this is the exact match I want. And again I'll say match. So first I'm searching for this one, which is the row. Then I'll search for the column. Again I'm searching for this. And then I'm saying exact match. Now I'm getting the value here, right? So Anthony. So Anthony, this is the sale. So I'm getting 410. Similarly for Chris, 2017. Right, to 458. And similarly for David, I'm getting this one, right? So it is working. Now how it is working is, just understand this logic, you will understand it. My output should be a value. That means what? My outermost function should always be index. So I have to give the position. So how to get the position? I only have the value. So from value I need to convert to position, and from position again it converts back to value. So if you understand this logic, then index and match is very easy to understand, right? So I'll just explain one last time. Index is value because ultimately you want the sales value. That's why index should always be the outermost function. Now when you talk about match, what will it do? The output of match is always position, right? So what you're doing is, with match you are taking values and converting to position, right? Match is taking the values and it is converting to the position, and index what it is doing, it is taking those positions giving values. That means what? So it should be reversed like this. So match, first it will take all these values. It will convert these values into positions. Position number 1, 2, 3, column number 1, 2, 3. And those positions will be taken by index function and it will give you the value. So this is the exact logic with which this combination actually works. Right? So that is about index and match. So with two-dimensional data, you can actually work with this function. It will work very, very well. And now here I'll talk about an alternate case. For example, let's say you want to get all these values based on the names. What you can do is simply you can go with VLOOKUP also works, XLOOKUP also works, but I'm using XLOOKUP. I will say Anthony, and this is this is my lookup array is this because this is XLOOKUP, right? And my return array is this. At a time, I'm giving all the columns as output. Now you see all the 4 columns are sorry, I think I need to freeze the cells. Just a moment. See, because Sanjay is not there, it is showing an error. For rest of them, it is giving. So here what I'm saying, from single column, I'm able to get multiple columns as output. So this is where dynamic arrays come into picture. Right? Earlier what we have seen, okay, from 2 different columns, we got into 1 column. But here what you're doing, with single column output, you are getting multiple column. With single column input, you are getting multiple column output. So this is possible in dynamic arrays. If you try to do this in older versions of Office, even with VLOOKUP also, it will not work. Right? This is where the power of dynamic arrays come into picture with XLOOKUP. With VLOOKUP, you can get this. I mean, there are always workarounds, but with XLOOKUP, it is very straightforward, right? So here, if you see, this is giving an error. Now, what if I want to throw a message to the user saying that, okay, whenever there is an error, because it is looking very bad, I want to give a message. So here, what I can do, if something is not found, so there is one argument here saying if not found, I'll say person not found. I'm putting an error message, my own error message. Now if I copy this, so it is saying person not found instead of any error. Now if you want to get the same kind of functionality of VLOOKUP, first you need to say if error, then you need to use VLOOKUP. Then it will give you this kind of functionality. But in XLOOKUP, the best part is it works ascending descending order. It has a built-in error handling mechanism. And also it works with the help of dynamic arrays. The output, multiple column output is possible. So that's the reason why you need to stop using VLOOKUP and start using XLOOKUP. So this is this is all what I wanted to cover. If you have any questions, you can ask me now.
Awesome. So concerning the index and match, someone said we can also use the VLOOKUP and match also for this sheet, right? So that's for the index and match.
Yeah, we can use that as well, correct.
Okay, so some people answer up. Let me just make them present so they can speak.
Yeah, definitely.
Coming. So Aditi, you can speak now. Aditi, you can unmute yourself and speak. Hello, Aditi. Okay, so let me promote Timothy. Timothy, I'll promote you now. Hi, Timothy.
Yeah.
Hello, Timothy. Okay.
Yeah, with you.
Can you hear me now? Yeah, I'll meet you. Yeah, I can hear you. Perfect.
All right. So, Sanjay, thank you very much. Well done. Please, what's the shortcode or shortcut to actually freeze the search criteria? That dollar sign. What's the shortcut on the keyboard to automatically freeze without manually typing?
No, if you want a shortcut, it is F4 function key F4.
All right. Thank you. Well done.
Yeah.
Okay, so who else? Let me see the chat box if there's any question in the chat box. And by the way, Sanjay, awesome share section. I really learned some new cool stuff. A lot. Okay, thank you. Everyone is just giving you praises. Okay, someone said Office 365, is it mandatory for XLOOKUP, right?
No, see, we have Office 2021, right?
Yes, yes.
Yeah, in 2021 it will work. If you have the previous version 2019 or below, then it will not work.
Okay, someone also asked that how will match function for duplicate data?
It is the same logic which I asked for, which I showed for VLOOKUP. We need to convert that column into non-unique column by adding a new column and using COUNTIF, and then we can use the match. That is the only way.
Okay, someone also said that, can I ask something about the case sensitivity in XLOOKUP? Is it case sensitive?
See, when it comes to XLOOKUP, yeah, that is also one more thing. What you can do is, generally what I recommend is, to avoid this confusion, whenever you're using this kind of setup, what you can do is, you can simply go up with, okay, you can simply go with, so sorry. Example, here there is XLOOKUP. I'll just tell you, right? So here, let's say it is written like this.
Okay.
So because in real life we always get unclean data, right? If you use XLOOKUP, sorry, should not freeze this. One second. Yeah, this is the lookup array and this is the return array. Because there it is not clean, right? Okay, see, whenever you're talking about this, it works. But generally what I recommend is there is one function called lower. Right,
Okay.
so here you can use lower, and here also I think it will not work, but still it is not case sensitive. But generally if you find unclean data, so go with proper case. So there is something called proper case. So go with proper case. What will happen is, if you go with something like this, depending on the data, so if I say proper Anthony Jacobs, so it will give me the exact Anthony Jacobs, however the data is. But what I generally recommend in this case is go with Power Query, because in Power Query you can directly take this data there and then you can change the cases so that you will not face any kind of issue. Even though it is case insensitive, still I recommend you to go with Power Query because that is always better. Right?
Yeah,
or you can
awesome.
simply go with proper case, right? Give your proper case and then go with the argument. So here what I can do, I will say here also I can say simply, I will say clean, sorry, I'll say trim, and then I'll say proper, and I will go with this kind of argument. So this will be better compared to the other arguments. So this is what I recommend. But generally, if you keep on adding, trim, clean, proper, and everything, it becomes very long. So go with Power Query. In Power Query, you have built-in functions, so that will make it much easy.
Awesome, awesome. Also, okay, I just promoted someone to speak now.
Yeah.
So Prashant Gupta, you can speak now. You can unmute yourself and speak.
Yes, Sanjay, can you please explain that index match formula? Actually, I have one confusion in that. Can you come again with that formula?
Fine. Yeah. This is index and match. Yeah.
Can you put your cursor on that particular 410? I want to see the formula.
Yeah.
So if you can explain the last part, I have not understood. You have used 2-time match. Actually, I am not able to understand this formula. So can you please explain again?
Yeah. See, when I say index, right? First, I'm selecting my array range. Now, the first argument is the row number. Because see, row number means what? First, I need to get the row number, which is Anthony, Bill, Chris, top to bottom. I need to get one number to select the right name. So if I want to select Anthony, the row number is 1, Bill is 2, Chris is 3, the number, the position. Now what will happen if I select a position? I am having multiple values in each position. Now I need to select the column position. So column position is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So I need two arguments, right? Because this is a two-dimensional data. So first I am searching according to names, and again I am searching according to the years. So I need to have two arguments within that particular function. So what I have to do, I have to select row number and then I have to select the column number. So two times I'm using match.
Okay, so first we will use column and then row. Okay.
And the reason why we are using index first and match next, because ultimately our output should be a value. That means what? The outermost function should always be index, because our output is a value, not a position. But inside you need the position. So position is the input for index and output is the value. How will you get position? Again, you need to convert these values into positions. To convert these both values into positions, you use match inside.
Okay.
And from positions, again, it gets converted to values with index in the outside.
Outside. And in which of the cases we are only using match one time, like index, we are using first index then match. In which of the cases, like can you give example?
See, when it comes to a single case, you can go with VLOOKUP or HLOOKUP. Why do you require a match index? Only index and match is required when you have two-dimensional data. If you are using only one argument, then you can directly go with HLOOKUP or XLOOKUP or VLOOKUP. See, if the data is like this, go with HLOOKUP. If the data is like this, you go with VLOOKUP. So there is no point of using index and match in that case.
Right? Awesome. Thanks for the explanation, Sanjay. Yeah. So our last question before we end is how you started your data analysis journey and the advice you have for people just starting out in the field of data analysis.
Yeah, the first thing which I always tell anybody is start your data analysis journey with Excel, because if you learn Excel, it will help you to understand the logic. So generally, one thing which I generally observe with a lot of people is many people assume that they know everything about Excel because they have been using it for the last 10 or 15 years. But the truth is many people make this mistake. They feel overconfident about their Excel skills. But when people start seeing these things, they'll understand, okay, there is so much to learn in Excel. So the first thing is don't be overconfident in Excel and start your data analytics journey with Excel. And with Excel, then you go with Power BI, it will be very, very easy, the journey, because whatever you use in Excel, for example, the functions or Power Query, DAX, whatever you're using in Excel, the skills are transferable into Power BI. So even when you talk about DAX, it also has if condition, it also has switch function, it also has related function, lookup function, all these things. Maybe they may not be exactly the same, but once you are good with Excel, then getting into data relation tool like Power BI will be very, very simple. And also second thing is almost every company, doesn't matter which company, whether it's a startup or a Fortune 500 company or a unicorn, whatever that is, everybody uses Excel across all departments. For example, if you write a very nice Python code and if you present it to your HR or maybe with your supply chain manager, they will not even understand what you're talking because they don't know how to code. Not everybody is a programmer. But if you show a solution on Excel, they'll be impressed. Even in my work experience, I never actually implement a solution in Power BI or let's say in Python. I always show my solution on Excel so that they'll understand, okay, I know how to build the logic, because once I build a solution on Excel and if I show it to different people in different departments, they'll understand, okay, I have certain skill, because Excel is something which anybody can relate to. If you write a Python code or if you write a Power BI DAX formula, only your developers will be appreciating it. No front-end user will actually appreciate it. Your management or managers, they don't even care about it. So these are the two reasons why you need to start using Excel. First thing is it will help you to build rapport across multiple people in your organization. You can talk to HR, you can talk to supply chain, you can talk to finance, any guy will relate to it. And second thing is it will help you to build the logic and it will make your transition to learn Power BI very, very simple. So this is the advice which I want to give regarding Excel.
Okay. So someone said that after Excel, what is the best thing to learn? Excel dashboard or SQL? Also for planning to go ahead.
Okay, so when it comes to Excel and SQL, once again I'll say go with Excel first, then you can go with SQL, because in Excel also what I would suggest is start using table concept, because in SQL or even if you take Power BI, we never go by cell reference. I'll just show, it will just take 1 minute. So if you see this, right, if you see this one, we are always using, so I'll just take a very simple example, right? Okay, let me take this example. Here in Excel, we are always using cell by cell references. If I say sum of, we'll go like this. But the issue is this is not how SQL or even Power BI works. So if I convert this into a table, so I'll select this, I'll say insert a table and I'll click OK. Now this is actually a table. Many people think both are same, but now see how the lookup function, now how sum function works. I'll say sum of, and I'll add this. Now see, my cell by cell reference is gone. It is not saying B, my formula is D, so E4 to E13. It is saying sum of table name followed by the column name. So if I delete this, here I have option to choose all my columns. If I want to see the total cost, I can select this column name, and then my sum formula becomes like this. Even when it comes to lookup functions, here if I simply go here and if I try to change it, still the same logic applies, especially with XLOOKUP, it will work very well. So start learning formulas in this way. Don't learn formulas in cell by cell references. Don't go with sum of D1 to D10. Stop using that, because even in SQL or in Power BI, this is the terminology which they use. Start working with tables in Excel. That is the advice which I would like to give. Once you start using tables, then you start going with the other tools. Don't go with cell by cell references, because none of the tools, SQL or Power BI, go with cell by cell reference. So this is what I wanted to convey.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. So the record of this session will be made available on our YouTube channel by tomorrow by the same time. And also, Sanjay, I want to say thank you so much for honoring our invitation. I will look forward for other sections with you. Okay, yeah. So our next section will be in the next 1 hour. So we're having sentiment analysis with Power BI. So I'll share the link in the chat box. Just a second, I'll share the link in the chat box. So you can join. For those using Power BI, you want to learn about sentiment analysis using Power BI, you can join us. So Sanjay, thank you. I've had a lot of thank you. So everyone, do have a lovely week ahead. Bye, guys.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, awesome. Thank
Bye.
you.
Yeah.